Let's talk
That talk
with
with
Cola.
Cola. All right, today's topic is the challenges and impacts of parenting at a young age. Who would like to tackle that first?
Mm. That it's a tackle, right? For sure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll go. I mean, teenage pregnancy, right? So I
Mhm.
think for me, it's there's different facets to it, right? So how did the pregnancy occur, right? So I think that that is like the first question, like because that determines like how the what the dynamic of that that situation may have been. And for me, it was it wasn't a good circumstance for me. So that led into some challenges in itself, you know, psychologically, emotionally, things like that. So
Well,
Go on, Tamika.
for me, it was I actually got pregnant at 14, and my mother was like, "No, nothing is up. You was going to the clinic, and it's over." And at 14, it didn't impact me as bad. But then, me being me, I got pregnant again at 17. And I was in a relationship with my first love, and it was all butterflies and flowers, and I thought it was great, and I did not want to get rid of that baby. I I when it was time to make an appointment, I would never make the appointment because I was 17. She was trying to make me do it. I didn't want to make the appointment. When the appointment, she made the appointment. Then she said that we had to pay for it. So, for me, it's like, well, I don't even want it. So why would I come up with the money? So I didn't. So the day of the appointment, woke up, she came downstairs like, "You ready?" And I'm like, "For what?" Because I wasn't going. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, "Are we going?" And she was like, "You got the money?" I was like, "No," because I'm thinking that she gonna be like, "Oh my God," and just be mad for a little while and get over it. No, baby, my mama disappeared for about 30 minutes and came back. She had to reschedule the appointment and came back
uh,
with the money. Like, let's go.
she wasn't
And
playing.
no, she was playing it all. And
Mm-mm.
I was like devastated. And I was dealing with a dude whose mother was more like his best friend than like his mom. So they were all for it. So when the abortion happened, like everybody was mad at me. He was afraid to show up because he knew my mother was upset.
Mhm.
And um she she was mad because to her he didn't come support me, but he didn't want it either. Like it was just sad all around. And I look back on that and I don't even know honestly if that was the best decision or not. You know what I mean? I don't know
Mhm.
what that child could have done or not done, or you know what I'm saying, or what path of life I may have went on with that baby or not. But yeah, my mom was like, no, ma'am.
Mm.
And for me, I was 14, and I remember coming home. No, I had ran away for like a year, and that's a whole nother unpacking. But I had ran away for a year, and my family was helping me and everything with the whole runaway and all that. But when I came back, I told my mom I was pregnant, and her first words was like, "Well, you ain't getting no abortion." For me, I was sitting there like, who want a kid? Now, granted, yeah, I was doing the grown things to have a kid, but I did not want to have a kid, right? I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
have the fun without the kid.
Right.
Okay. But she was not playing at all whatsoever. And then on top of that, I remember her saying, and don't call me the babysitter, I'll call you. So not only am I having to have this child that I know I'm not mentally, uh, physically, uh, financially prepared to raise, you
Right.
also are telling me that you're not even gonna babysit. You're gonna let me know
Right.
when you want to babysit. So now I'm 15 having her. And then I have this little one that has no idea what's going on in life. And I'm supposed to protect her from what? because at that point, I don't even think I was being protected. So how am I supposed to protect someone when I don't even know what protection looks like?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And the fact of a lot of my childhood upbringing was a little toxic. Um, love to me was not, I'm not gonna say neglect, but love was abuse. That's what I knew. I knew that if somebody put their hands on you, it's because they love you. Because why would people do that if they didn't, right? So now you want me to love this kid. Well, I also know that hits hurt. So what am I supposed to do? Because the only love I know is hits or being talked down to or um not having a voice and making sure that you're seen but never heard, right?
Heard.
So you want me to teach this baby this? That's what you want me to teach this child that you're making me have? And then nobody gonna step in to get the child. Like I had to go live with one of my aunts just to get the um it wasn't really I ain't gonna say it was help because all it did was make me get pregnant again like the same year. But it was I had someone that I knew that while I'm going and doing what I know how to do, that my child would be safe, prayerfully safe with my auntie because she would take my child because I'm light skinned. So she would definitely take my child because I'm light skinned and my child was most likely going to be light skinned.
Oh,
She didn't come out light skinned, but she did love her.
oh,
Yeah.
Mm.
light skin.
What's your take, Coco? You on mute. Oh.
I'm still off that light skin part.
Yeah, me too. I'm still there.
With me, it's like I ain't go through that. I ain't have my first kid till I was 21.
Right.
And my family supported me like no matter what. They'll tell me they was in Georgia, I was in Florida, send them back home. I don't need to be down there by myself with, a child. Like my village was really strong and supported me. So I didn't even have that issue. But I'm gonna be honest, I just at that time I was still in school and I just really didn't want no kids at all. Like I had already trained in my mind that I didn't want any kids because I didn't want like to be toxic or to bring any type of negativity to my kids. So I had already said to myself, like, I don't want kids.
Mm-hmm.
Once I did have them or had my first one, my family was very supportive. And then when 3 years later, I was like, I got one, I might well have the second one. And that's how it went. Then 13 years later, here comes Journey. So
Yeah, okay. So Cree asked me if I didn't want if I hold on, if I didn't want to have abortion, what made me tell my mom? Me and my mother never had a conversation of what would happen if you even had sex, honestly. It was just one of those, that's not what you do. Stay away from boys. It wasn't what's the consequences or what's gonna happen, what I'm not gonna tolerate. We didn't have that kind of relationship. You found out what she was gonna tolerate after the fact, or if something went wrong or something, whatever. So I did not know that she was gonna say we ain't doing no abortion. And she wasn't heavy into church. Now, if she was heavy into church, I probably would not have told her. I probably would try to call one of my aunts that raised me and had them do what I needed to do. But I'm thinking like we ain't go to church. We went to church when I was little. Then after that, wasn't nobody going to church in my family like that. You listen to your hymns on Sunday, you clean the house and you say your prayers. Amen. Praise the Lord. Gone but your business. So it would have never crossed my mind to be like, oh, I'm gonna be against abortions. Now, granted, fast forward, if we were now the person she is now, girl, she wouldn't care. She'd be right there doctoring us up. She'd be there licking our wounds and putting band-aids and telling us everything is gonna be okay. But at that point in life, no ma'am. Mm-mm.
So for me, so when I got pregnant, I was at the end of like my 15, like I was 15. And during that time I was in church. And I remember leading up to the pregnancy, I remember like dropping little hints like, this person has made a pass here, this person touched me here, this person, like I would share it with my sister, my adopted sister at that point in time, and a cousin. And then as things kind of progressed and moved on, it was like, okay, the church don't need to know this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we need to figure out if you're just saying this because you have a crush on this man who's 29, or did something really happen? So now you're forced to are you going to go against the truth? You know what I'm saying? The truth. Are you willing to do this? So I remember going to work, and I had met at that time counselors here in Ohio. We had them inside our high schools to where if something like that happened, you could go to them. So I had a counselor who was also a nurse, and she said, if this is something that you want to do, I will go with you. And she took me to the abortion clinic, started the process. And at that time, they were like, listen, without a parent's signature, this can't happen. And I remember calling my sister, Cindy, and I'm like, yo, like, this is a situation. And I don't want anybody to know about it, but I need you, because she was an adult. But I said, I need you to come here to pretend to be mommy. And because I wasn't living with my bio mom, I was here, and there was custody. So it was a whole different family dynamic. So I remember her catching a Greyhound and coming to be with me. And something in my heart knew. I said, Cindy, she ain't with it. She's kept saying, Amber, I think that you need to just not get this abortion, and we need to fight it together. You can come back home type thing. And I'm like, this ain't it. And we got to the abortion clinic, and my sister decided to say, oops, oh, I'm her sister, I'm not her mom.
Wow.
And I had so much resentment and hurt behind that. But I love my sister, and I knew her heart was good. You know what I mean? I knew, and to this day, like that's growth with that, right? So I know now what the intent was, and maybe God showed her something then that I wasn't able to see. Okay. So she went back home, and I remember going back, and I said, I need to know what I can do. And in Ohio, it's called a judicial bypass. And this judicial bypass, you're set a court date, and you go in front of a judge, and you tell this judge why you feel you need to have this done without the parent's signature. And I remember standing in front of this judge, and I remember telling him, I have a dream to be a doctor or a nurse. This situation, I shouldn't have been doing things. And now I'm in a situation. Even in that moment, I knew in my mind, like, I cannot say who the father of this child is, because that was going to open up a whole nother can of worms. And then where would I go? What level of embarrassment would come with this? So they granted it. They granted the abortion. And I went home. I was scheduled 4 days later, and I had a dream. And in this dream, it was pitch black. And I seen this, like, the baby, like, falling from a sky that wasn't a sky, it was just black. And then as his body turned, I seen a knife. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I couldn't do it. So I wrote a letter, and I sent it home with my god sister. I said, put it in the mailbox. I'm going to work. And she put it in the mailbox. The next thing I know, I worked at a grocery store. They're calling me on the PA. They said, Amber, come to customer service. And there was my godmom with this letter in her hand. I said, oh, she gonna kill me. And we got home. She was devastated. There was a lot of emotions. There was a lot of tears. And it was just very hard, because that it forced me to say who this was. And in that situation, this is a part of the church hurt that people endure. And a lot of times people sit quiet on it, because how do you discuss being hurt at church, but still being a believer? How do you discuss, being traumatized by people that you looked up to and you asked to pray for you as a teenager? Wow. And then you step away and you're called a whore. You're called a homewrecker. You're hearing these things all through the church, right? So how do you go on from that? And I remember very vivid, my godmother coming in the room, and she said, listen, whatever happened, we're going to ride this thing together. But in doing that, she lost her best friend for a little bit. Family was kind of like separated, divided. And then I was stuck mentally. I was stuck. And how do you come out of that? I didn't want to feed my child. When I gave birth to my child, I told my sister and my godmother, get him off of me. I had to learn how to love a child that I almost died having. I had a seizure in labor. But I had to learn how to love him.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest challenges through this whole situation, was loving him and recognizing that no matter how he was conceived, no matter the situation, this is a human being that God blessed me with. And I have a job now. And whatever I had going on mentally, I had to put that back here. Now, I didn't learn then how to cope with it. It took me years. It took me, I was an adult, like going into my 30s. And it's just one of those situations where that is that is the main struggle, and how it affected me going to high school pregnant. People thought you was fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Going and I liked girls. So now you fast, confused, and gay. And I was, you know what I'm saying? And I was out. I had a girlfriend at 2 different schools. Okay. So the people at church already called me a lesbian. Okay. So now I'm gay and I'm a lesbian. I'm confused. So, you know, that time in my life socially was hard. It was one of the hardest times in my life. And I mean, it doesn't get any easier, because the things that led up to that, although he's my blessing and I thank God for him, because I tell people all the time, if it wasn't for Elijah, I don't really know if I would have my second child. I don't know if I would even be here, because there was a time when I was like, I'm not fighting no more, which led me into the career that I'm in. So I'm very thankful to God. And he's a good child.
He really is.
He's a great child. He's a great child. So
for me, my mother, she was one of those mothers. She was very loving, I was kind of spoiled. Like, she was really hands-on. During the time of my pregnancies, she worked afternoons, and that was the only way that, you know, that she could support us, because she worked at a plant, she worked afternoons. So I went to high school. Obviously, I got off the bus at like 2:30. She left at like 2:35, and she worked afternoons at Ford Motor Company, like 45 minutes away from where we lived. And then she didn't get back until like midnight. So I literally had all day to do whatever I wanted to do. But she knew that I was pregnant because my body changed. My boobs got big. And at 14, I'm not even thinking about her counting sanitary napkins. You know what I'm saying? I ain't thinking she counting any of those, or trying to figure out if I done wrapped them up in the bathroom or whatever the case may be. But I should have known. I should have thought about it, because, like I said, she was really hands-on. And you know, like I said, when I was 14, it really wasn't a big deal to me at that time, because it's like, okay, I'm 14, whatever, it happened and it's over, you know. And I was pregnant by a 21-year-old man, but it was 22. But he didn't know I was 22. He thought I was like 17 going on, and he thought I was going to get ready to graduate from high school. So I was doing all of this lying and all of this other stuff. So, of course, when the pregnancy came out, he's like, why not? You about to be 18 and I'm 22. He worked at a plant, had his own house and everything. And he like, yeah, so what's the problem? And I'm like, yeah, so just a little bit of problem. You know what I'm saying? Just double my age down a couple of years. And of course, even during that whole relationship, he never knew. But as soon as he found out, he started treating me like a child. And it was like, that just went downhill or whatever. But I do wonder, you know, sometimes, like, what if I had children,
right?
More children than the one that I have. And I didn't have my son until I was 20. I birthed him when I was, you know, when I turned 20 years old. And even then, I had left home and probably was gone for maybe a little over a year. because I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I just felt like it was just time for me to leave. And I supported myself, got my own place and all of those other good things, but you're just not mentally mature at that age. You don't have the mental capacity to even see a long term for your child's future. You know what I mean? Like now I know that had I had that baby at that age, girl, me and the baby both probably be locked up somewhere. Like, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no telling what I lived a life. You know what I'm saying?
Not locked up together.
You know what I'm saying? Because, but I'm just being honest. Like, I didn't have the mental capacity of selling drugs is not a good thing around children. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, my baby walking around, he don't want for nothing. All my bills is paid, and that it just is what it is.
Right.
But I didn't have the mental capacity to be a mother at that time. And later on in life, me and my mother had a conversation about it, and she said she knew that I wasn't ready. But I also feel like parents back then and some now, they don't explain things to their kids. You know, back in the day it was I said what I said and that's it. You know what I'm saying? For me, you can't tell me to do something and then don't tell me why I shouldn't be doing it or anything like that, because now I want to know what's the consequences, because you didn't tell me that. We didn't have conversations about you're not mature enough. You have a baby, you have to work and go to school, and then you have to provide and you have to do these things, because my life was fine the way it was. I wasn't calculating nobody's bills or how these bills was getting paid. So you don't think about that. And that's probably another topic. But parents don't.
It's gonna be part 2.
Parents don't explain things to their children because they feel like they don't owe them no explanation. But these are human beings with brains and minds, and it would probably have minimized the mental anguish. You know what I mean? It would probably have made me think deeper into it, like, dang, you know what, you're right, instead of, oh, you just can't. Right. You know what I mean? And I can't really say like I can't really say I thank God that happened, because I don't know what my blessings would have been or what would have came from my children if I would have had them. You know what I mean? And I think about that all the time. And it's just today, at this age, boy, if I would have knew then what I know now, it would have been a whole different ball game. I would have better prepared even at 21. Or at 20. I turned 21 a few months later, but even at that age, I still wasn't mentally prepared. Now I understand why people get married and they might not have kids until 30. My mother had me when she was 30. So at 30, you know a lot. At 30 years old, you don't know as much as you knew at 40, but at 30, you have some type of
foundation.
Some type of foundation in your life, and you are more able to see things or anticipate stuff that's going to happen in the future. But at 19, at 20, I ain't know nothing.
So how did you
pivot? Oh, go ahead, Carl.
Feel like once you had to have that abortion, like afterwards?
So with 14, the 14, I really didn't care. I actually got into a fight. I got jumped at school when I was 14. Because I was just the cool girl. All the fellas talked to me and everything, and I wasn't talking to them like that. They was just all like brothers. But I got jumped a couple of weeks before the abortion appointment, and then I felt like that was just a free ride. I was just out of school and I had the abortion. But at 17, I was so hurt. Like, I was devastated. It ruined my little relationship. His mom was upset with me, and we were all like this at that time, and it was just, it hurted. It hurted really bad because I felt like there was something that I wanted, and you're telling me no. And again, without an explanation, you just saying no because you feel like you don't want to take care of the baby, but you don't even give me enough. You didn't even give me enough credit to say that, well, maybe you can do it and I can just help you. I didn't want you to take on the whole baby idea. The baby have a whole other side of a family that's wanting this baby. So you made a decision for me, not even giving me the benefit of the doubt. Like, do you think that I'm that less of a person that I can't get out here and figure it out and do it myself. Like, teach me how to be a mother instead of just taking it all away from me. So that's kind of how I felt after it was over. I was really hurt. I was upset with my mom, and that's why I ended up leaving home and doing my own thing because, yeah.
All right, we got a couple questions. Well, we got a question in the chat, and then I'm gonna stir us a little different, right? At what point did you treat your baby differently? Are you meaning as far as like maturely, like with being mature or still being immature? Because if it was immature, it took me, I can honestly say it took me to become a full-fledged adult to know how to love my first child. And I mean,
So
she is, I mean, well in probably late teens, ready to be 20, and my daughter be 29 in literally a few weeks. So it took me a long time to it took me a long time. Okay, I see it. So it took me a
Oh, it's
very
me.
long time to be able to come to that to get over the regret, honestly. And it wasn't that I regret her. It wasn't her. It was the regret. I don't like my choice being taken away, even as an adult. I'd rather you tell me what you're gonna do or give me the option to make a decision versus you just taking it from me because that's what you feel is best for me. Don't do that. Because what you may feel might not, I might could really accomplish it had I had the chance, right? Or
Right.
whatever the case may be. But in this case, um, yeah, it took me. I mean, I want to say she probably might was like close to 20, if not 20, before it was like, okay, you got to deal with this because she is ready. She is grown, and it had became a point that I had so much regret for being a mom so young that it was just like I remember one time I wanted to gone on to Glory, right, and I got so pissed off because I couldn't go to Glory because I got to be a mom.
mm,
Like I was so mad and angry because I'm like, I can't even leave if I want to leave because I still got to be a mom. Now,
yep.
granted, after a while, okay, I knew what I was doing. Okay, you knew now
Hmm.
after the first one
Mhm.
what happens when one
Hmm.
plus one is going to equal two, three, four, five, six, and seven, right? So I knew, but it still was that point of my whole childhood. I was a mom literally from 15 all the way up to now. That's what I feel like I can accomplish very well. Have a kid and give them love now, right? So it literally was like probably when she was in her it probably was when she was in her 20s, and probably my second daughter, we were different. My second daughter, it was different only because um I had the backup. I heard, not saying my oldest father didn't had wasn't there. At that point, I was 15. I didn't want him as her dad, right? I just knew it was gonna be the guy that I was dating, even though he was in jail when I got pregnant. So I knew it couldn't be his child, right? But that's what I had in my head was gonna happen because I'm getting engaged soon as I walk across the stage, right? That's what the goal was. However, thank God for great things. So,
Yes.
but my second child, because of who her father was, of course, I'm still young, so I got that whole love thing, and we're gonna have a kid, and they're gonna have his eyes and his smile, and then his family supportive. They're gonna watch the kids, help us feed the kids. They're gonna do everything. So it was a difference because I didn't have that burden on my back of what am I gonna do? What's the foundation? So it was a little bit easier to openly give her the love that I did not know how to give the oldest. Now, girl, that oldest baby, she is everything. Okay, we don't miss a week without talking. But if you would have seen our journey, which I'm gonna go right on into the toxic part of it, if you would have seen our journey from me being 15 to where we are now, if you didn't know there's a God, you would know.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yes.
it was a struggle to try to be somebody's mom and love someone when you don't even love yourself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and to answer the part for me, when I had him, like I said, I wasn't there. Okay. So my godmother actually took him for like the first year and a half and let me kind of do my thing. Now, we were granted in the same household up until I moved out because I didn't want to follow the rules of the religion. So I left. But I can tell you, I remember him turning 6. And I was just like, I remember driving, going to the grocery store, and I was like, I don't know, I had just like quick vision, like I got in a car accident and something happened to him, and it took the life out of me. It didn't happen, right? But it felt so real, and I was like, oh God, I love him. I love him, because if this would have been really happening, I know what that pain would have felt in that very moment. God allowed me to feel that. I know that now. I didn't know that then. I just was like, oh, you tripping. Like, you might need to get checked in, because mentally, where did you just go for you to feel that kind of pain? But you looked in the back seat and he was back there and we were well. So I think that was the turning point for me emotionally. And then as he got older, it was very, like Shay said, we're going to go into it, but it was very strange. Even after that moment, I didn't mistreat my child, but I also didn't have that connection, that bond, right, with him. And it was starting to feel forced as he got older. I got older. We grew up together, right? But I did not want it to feel forced. So I surrounded my child with people that can pour into him something that I couldn't, because I couldn't really say I genuinely know what love feels like.
Right.
I didn't receive it from my mother like that, because it's generational, right? And to this day, she doesn't know how to love. And because of that, the expectations that I had put in place for her, I continually got hurt. Like, I just, every time I was hurt, like over and over again. At some point, you like, girl, now when you gonna stop getting beat up? Right? Because that's how it felt. But I couldn't pour into him a certain level of love. I took care of him. I clothed him. I fed him. I did homework. I went to sports. But it wasn't the come give me a hug. It wasn't let's just go have a mommy and Sunday. None of that happened until he got older.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Mika. Your wife would like to know. You said you think about your life, what your life would have been like if you had those kids. Having more kids now, does it bring up that past pain?
Actually doesn't. What happens is it tells me how much I was not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because the amount of love I have for my kids now, the way that I care, and kind of like what Amber was saying, it's like you it's not that you don't love your kids or you don't care for them or you don't you'll protect them, you'll clothe them, you'll feed them, you'll make sure they had. However, at this age, it's more than just that. It's listening to their day. It's finding out what's going on in their lives. It's figuring out how they feel about something emotionally. It's looking into their faces and knowing that there's something wrong or there's a disconnect. It's walking in the house and being able to feel the wrong energy. It's teaching at every moment, so I look back on it now and be like, dang, how would have been? But I know for a fact that I didn't have the tools then. I hadn't had the life experiences then. I hadn't had where you hit rock bottom and you got to start from zero to try to get back to the top. I hadn't had the struggles then. I didn't know anything then. So so it doesn't bring up past pain. It just tells me how immature I was at that age and not knowing. And I also feel like that if during that time when I was younger, if my mother would have explained it, then I could have went on into it further. I wouldn't have carried that hurt for so long, because I carried it for a long time until it's kind of like, and it's almost like you don't even realize that there's a difference until other children come along.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Right.
now, when the other children come along, do it make me reflect back to where I went wrong with my son that is here? Yes, it does. And yes, that does hurt because I realize now that the things that I pour into my now children, I didn't have the knowledge or the ability to pour into my son that's 21 now.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I did the best I could with what I had,
Right.
but you can't explain that to a child.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
No.
They're looking for, like you said, Amber, you're still looking for a certain level of love.
Mhm.
And sometimes you look for that in people, period, parents, friends, family, whatever.
Yes.
And it's hard to understand that the capacity of love that you require and they're not giving it to you. Sometimes it makes you be like, well, why I can't get that kind of love?
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Is that they don't have the capacity to love you the way that you need to be loved
Mhm.
or the way that
Mhm.
you feel like you need to be loved. So now that I'm older, I know all of those things. So if my children come to me and ask me a question like that, I have an actual answer from an
Yeah.
actual experience. I have
Right.
friends around me, my family around me, where they have talked to me because everybody talks to me, where they come
Mhm.
talk to me and bring me things and I pour into them. So now I have the ability to pour into my children a lot more. So I know now that then I wasn't ready at all.
Okay, Coco. Cultivate wants to know. You said you didn't want to have kids at that age. Do you think it had to do with your upbringing?
It did. First of all, I thought I was just having fun at 21, to be honest. Then my family, it was kind of a balance because I had a part of my family that was toxic, and then I had this other side of my family, that was loving into the church. So it kind of balanced out. But I ain't gonna lie, like I was too scared to even tell my grandmama I was pregnant at 21. And like to this day, like it's just some things that I will not tell her. I don't know why. And she never whooped me or beat me or anything like that. But it's just some things I don't want to tell her because of the disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to go to something that Ren said. I make this joke with my kids all the time because it is a big difference, and I don't want to go too far into it because this is going to be a double back conversation because it's so much that we can unpack and repack good things, right? So we're gonna
Right.
repack good things the next time. Today we're just dealing with the effects of right being a young
Mhm.
parent. But to go back to what Ren said, Tamika, for y'all viewers that don't know. Um, but to go back to what Ren said, I make a joke with my kids all the time because, of course, the parent I am now, I got as even though I always say I don't have no patience, my patience is way longer than it is shorter. I want to talk to the kids about everything before
Mhm.
I give you, and I'm giving you multiple warnings before we had that long conversation or something is being taken
Right.
away versus prior to no, it's what I said. This is what I say, and this is what we're gonna do. And if you don't, it's gonna be a problem. And
Mhm.
it could go left real quick. And I'm gonna go back to that. But I make a joke with them, and I'm like, y'all my priority partner babies. These are my Blue Cross Blue Shield babies. So it's a big difference. Now it's a joke because I got it from the pet show, but it is saying not no offense to anybody on state insurance, but it is my way of saying I ain't know no better. That's all I
Mhm.
could have at that point was state insurance. That's all I knew how to get to give was the bare minimum on my state insurance. Now I'm equipped with knowledge and wisdom and patience and way more love and understanding and not wanting to have to and making sure that I'm not raising any of my kids now. If they call and need advice, I'm not so like I'm gonna tell you
Mhm.
what I feel, but I'm gonna give you that space to make your decision on what you do. And if you make the wrong decision and you have to call me again and say the same thing, I'm gonna say the same thing. Now, eventually, after 10 times, I'm just not gonna be the one that you can call, but I'm gonna help you as long as I possibly can. And so will my wife, and everyone that I have brought in their life as a co-parent, right? Um, but then to go back to the toxic part, I remember when, especially with my older girls, my son TJ and Xavier and Abby have not had to deal with the unhealthy, toxic Lachey.
Mhm.
They didn't really get it.
Yeah.
I left when me and my first marriage, we divorced. We made the decision that I'm gonna take the girls because I'm mom, right? Girls need their mom, and he's gonna keep our son because boys need their daddy. We never took into consideration that they need both, right?
Mhm.
So and we were both one of those people that's like out of sight, out of mind. Not purposely, right? But out of sight, out of mind. If you don't call and I forget to call or we're doing something and you're not around, it's so easy to just move with life because I got used to moving with life without having my son around, which again, even though we were thinking this was a great thing to do, all we did was add still toxicity to their life because now I have a son that even though he hasn't made mention, he still was abandoned by his mom, right? And then I have girls that could feel the same way, not purposely, but it's still a form of abandonment when you out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
Even though we were thinking it was for the right reason. But I remember having arguments with my older girls. I mean, to the point like we was all the same age. I mean, like all the same age. The stuff that would come out my mouth was as if these was women on the street. That's how bad it used to be because I did not know better. I gave you what I knew love is, and especially before I started really dabbling in and changing my life around and my thought pattern and all that, which was definitely having Xavier and making that promise that you're not going to have to recover from me. You're not gonna have to recover from your dad. You're not gonna have to recover because of something that we lack. We're not gonna do that, but that still left all the other kids with everything that I did not, all the dumping, all the anger, all the regret, all the um sadness and depression. They got all of it. Like I mean all of it. But what was crazy and all that in the mixture of all that toxicity, it wasn't a night that I ain't go check on my girls and make sure they went to bed safe. Now tell me how you do that. If that ain't bat hell crazy. Toxic as hell, but you go and make sure that all your kids is breathing in their bed.
And you're a
If that ain't
mother.
unhealthy, I don't know what is.
But you
Toxic
was
Right.
or not, you a mother.
but you was given what you had,
What you knew.
what you
That's it.
knew. You knew
Party
that
partners, baby.
all of that was coming out of your mouth sounded like love. So why wouldn't I come check on you? You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Why wouldn't I tuck you in to make sure you're good after I just destroyed you and you probably ain't gonna sleep good that night? But I'm gonna come check on you. Yeah, wow.
Okay, let me go through the chat real quick. If anybody got anything they want to add on what's the effects of having like the toxic part of it.
So
It
for
kind
me,
of rubs off on your kids. Like when you have
Yeah.
kids, if you went through toxic situations growing up, it rubs off on your kids. I don't care how hard you
Yes.
try to hide it, because it's
Yes.
a piece of it is gonna come out. And I have to stop and tell myself, be like your mama, because my mom would say anything or whatever, do anything. I just didn't want to be like that. Now she is a better grandmother than mother. However, I just in my head I already said I don't want to be like my mama, so I'm not gonna do it. Now I
Yeah.
still have some toxic ways because I yell and fuss, all loud, but I don't like touch them, put my hands on them, throw stuff at them, and things like that.
Right.
My level of it, like she said, it affects the kids. So, like my son, I've watched his relationships, and here recently, in the last 3 years, I'll say, finishing up college, I'm I noticed like there's this level of procrastination. There's this level of feeling like he didn't belong,
Mm-hmm.
um, unaccepted, and those were the things that I started picking up on. So it forced me to have these conversations that were very uncomfortable and with him and allowing him the moment, regardless of how it made me feel. And trust me, it hurt because I always said, no matter what, I will carry that burden. I will carry that pain. It's not for my child to carry. So on this particular day, when he let it all out, he let me know, like in a very toxic way, I should say. Let me just add that. It's your fault that my dad's family don't mess with me. It's your fault that you chose to have a kid at your age. It's your fault that I don't trust anybody. And I think, if I can be very honest, I started to say, listen, if you really want to know the truth, X, Y, Z, you understand? But I didn't. I had to take a step back and realize, like, this is his moment. He's telling me his truth. He's telling me his feelings. He's telling me his pain. He's expressing it. So in that moment, I was like I was forced to face my reality yet again. Things that I thought I had handled, I had been okay with, I made it through, I survived it. In that moment, I realized the survival game had just begun because he's an adult now. And now I have to have this conversation with this adult man. And the toxic side of it is he doesn't know what a healthy relationship look like.
Yeah.
He doesn't. And that's the heartbreak for me. Because all I can do is pray. It's not even just him. It trickles down to my baby girl. Because where I thought I was able to do things differently with her because of it was a choice to have her. You understand? I poured a little bit more into her at one point, and he was still neglected. He was still going without. Although in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm doing good. I love my baby boy. Yeah, we good out here. I'm making it happen. I'm going, like, I finished school. Like, I'm surviving. Y'all don't want me for nothing. But the reality of it is he still went through a whole nother cycle of neglect because here comes another child that I'm raising properly at this point. You understand? So that's the toxic side of things in my life, because I'm still like, okay, Elijah, let's talk about it. That's the good thing, is that now I can call him and I say, listen, somebody put a question in the thing and I'm going to segue into the answer. They asked, what would you tell somebody now going through?
That's
what
my
is
daughter.
it that you, oh, hi, honey. What is it that you needed to hear? And I didn't know what I needed to hear, because in my mind, nothing you could have said to me would have made me feel better about the situation. Until this moment with my child, I asked him, what can I do now? Because I can't take anything back and I can't change anything that's happened. But what is it that I can do in this moment and going forward that's going to help mend and heal your heart? And that baby looked at me and said, Mom, I just need you to hear me. I just need you to hear me, and I need you to respect me. And I said, you know what? I got you. I got it. And it was in that moment that I'm like, okay, this is a grown Black man that I have to make sure that I don't be a part of what society will already be prepared to do to him.
Right.
And it was that moment and those words that I realized, damn, them is the words that I needed to hear, just didn't know it. Hear me, believe me, respect me, guide me. Don't take my baby, just guide me. And now, watching him go to counseling, he attempted suicide a couple years ago. And that was the second moment of oh my God, I love this child. I would die, something like that dramatic side of pain, that gut wrenching pain that happened. So what do I need to do to prevent this from happening? Because he's suffering, right? But now I watch him and he's like, Mom, you're gonna be proud of me. I found another counselor. I'm like, great. His relationship has changed with his girlfriend, how he speaks to her, how he speaks to me, the joy that he has when he speaks to his younger sister. Like, things have changed. They're not great. It's not fixed. It's not 100%, but it's going in the right direction.
And I want to piggyback, and then I want Ren to answer that question as well. What was I going to say? I am big on therapy. And that's going to be a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, but I'm huge on it. It's a big thing. It's needed.
Yeah.
And it can't be family and it can't be friends. you have to have somebody outside of that good girlfriend call, right? Or that I'm gonna call my big sister or my little sister. Um, as a when you have children at a young age, it doesn't matter if you finish high school, it doesn't matter if you finish college. If you are not given those tools, like for Shanera, she may have gotten the love, right? But then it still was other areas I like. I remember the first time being disappointed in her and it wasn't even her fault, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, I held that disappointment probably for like a year. And if you were ever around with me and Shanira, we were thick as thieves. If you seen one, you seen the other. I mean, I probably got more pictures of me and her than I have with me or any of our I have probably had more pictures with me and her than I have with me and any other kid up until the younger ones, of course, because I'm always snapping pictures. And that disappointment lasted for a whole year for something that she couldn't even control and something that she didn't feel comfortable even tell me. And I'm like, but I was always your best friend. Like we were best friends because we grew up together, right? So I'm your best friend. There's no reason you can't tell me. But I
Mhm.
forgot that I didn't give her a safe place to tell me anything that bothered
Mhm.
her.
Right.
It was do what I say. And I made her my trying to think. You know how people always say boy moms, they make their son their man. I made
Mhm.
her my spouse. So when I went through the divorce with her dad, that's who was underneath of me and that's who I was underneath. When her godmother passed, I wanted to make sure I shield her from everything. So that means I got to make sure you got everything I could possibly find, the love, the this, the this. But I never took the time to prepare her for life, one, for real life. And then I never took the time to prepare her for disappointment. I never gave her that safe place to say, no matter what happens, because I wasn't thinking that anything will ever happen to any of them in any kind of way because I felt like I was there, but I really, really wasn't. Mentally and emotionally, I wasn't. Physically, yes. Mentally, emotionally, no. So I didn't give her that area. And I remember us going to Grumps for breakfast and her telling me exactly what happened with the disappointing moment. And all I could do was cry and say, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Right. But even thinking about talking about it now, it's crazy that it had to be her explaining what happened versus me just going to her and say, you know what, I'm sorry that
Sorry.
I held this grudge for a decision that was about your life. It wasn't my life. Even though I got so used to being able to tell her, go left, go right, good
Mhm.
grades. You're great at school. I mean, she was super freaking smart, but she's a people pleaser to the third power. I've never heard this lady tell nobody no, no, for real, and it not be because you know irritated her and she's telling you no. She would literally have, and that's all my kids. I really believe they will push themselves to make sure that everybody else is okay and never check on themselves, which is something that their mama does even to this day, right? Um, but then when it came to my son TJ, it was so easy to just ride one day in the car and just say, you know, I'm sorry for not being there. I really thought I was doing the right thing by leaving you with your dad because I can't make you a man. I only can make you loving. I only can make you know how to take care of a woman. If I can't teach you how to be a man, but that ain't true. I might not maybe know how to teach you to be a man, but I can show you to be a strong one by being a
Yeah.
strong model for you. Because it doesn't matter what the sex is. If I'm lining myself up and you're watching me line myself up, then you're going to line yourself up too, most likely. Right. But it was so easy to apologize. Even my son Xavier, it was so easy to give an apology. Even Abby, she's 4. When I hurt her feelings, even though I got to explain to her what happened and why she got in trouble, I can still go back and say, you know, I'm sorry. Even my oldest, I told her I was sorry, but it still was after so many years of packing on trauma because she
Yeah.
is a huge, like Nira has a great boyfriend and a great man to help her raise her kids. She did wonderful in that whole department. And then my oldest, she fixed everybody. And when I tell you she's so freaking amazing, but she will fix everybody, right? I mean everybody. And will not take the time to just be like, no, because if I need you, where you at?
Mhm.
Nothing. And even if she says it, it's still the potential of, and it still comes from. the trauma that I put on her and the trauma that she gained from other places or whatever the case may be. But nobody ever took the time to give her her worth, to give her her voice, to show her what it is, and then to try to do it now. You know how many years you had to erase for somebody to believe that they're worthy if no one ever made them feel that way? But Red, I
Right.
want you to answer that question that Nero wrote. You want me to read it back to you again?
I got it.
Okay.
I needed to, I feel like if that she could have acknowledged that what I did was wrong. I knew that, but just, I wanted to hear, you made it, that was not a good decision. You know what I'm saying? And you could have made better decisions. These are your choices.
Right.
You know, give me the opportunity. Being at that age, honestly, had she told me all the responsibilities that come along with it, the things that I'm going to need to do, the things I'm going to have to give up, the things that I'm going to have to this, I probably would have made the decision of, okay, you know what? Never mind, because I want to go to the whatever is happening this weekend. And I ain't trying to have a babysitter, and you ain't trying to babysit. You know what I mean? So I would tell a young lady that's in my position right now that your feelings matter. Right. Your decisions matter. They may not be the best decisions, and you maybe could have taken a different route, but that doesn't make you any less of a person. That doesn't make you any less, if you did have a children at a young age, that doesn't make you any less of a mother. That doesn't belittle you. It doesn't tear you down. It doesn't. I would tell a young lady that I would try to encourage them. If it's already happened and the baby is here, I mean, beating them down ain't gonna help. But that's typically what parents do. Oh, you're gonna have this baby up, and then the baby up crying all night. Yeah, that's what you get because you shouldn't have been out here sewing.
Toxicity.
Tell me how to put a baby on a pattern or on a schedule. Show me how to multitask where I can get my schoolwork done, get the baby together, get a couple hours of sleep, and still be able to go to school. Help me with a schedule instead of constantly beating me down. I know that this wasn't the best decision because I'm living in it, you know, but I would tell a young lady that, you know, it's okay. People make mistakes. Some are little, some are big, but it's how you recover from your mistakes. Yeah. It's where you put your faith in. And then you're also going to have to start putting your faith in God, because it's going to come into situations where ain't no way out but his way. And the sooner you recognize that and understand that, I think that it would build these young ladies up a lot more than them always being teared down. Like y'all said, you go to school, you're pregnant, you're gay, you're not gay, because obviously just being bisexual just don't exist nowadays. Because it's like, oh, she with a woman now she was just with a man. You know, that is
it is a thing, right? It's definitely a thing.
That's another topic again. But
it's a thing.
You already got the world tearing you down. You got statistics tearing you down. Oh, you had a baby, now you about to be on you about to be the state is about to take care of you. And you know, just it's enough things around you to tear you down enough, you know, and then you need somebody, preferably your mother during those times, to pour back into you, because you done already emptied yourself out. I done did enough damage myself. I don't need your help. I need you to tell me that it's okay, even though it's not, but it's going to be. And this is going to be a journey. And it's going to be hard. And you're not going to like making certain decisions. And you're going to have to put that baby first, because at that age, I'm not putting no baby first. We eating whatever I want to eat, and I don't care if you don't like nuggets and fries.
That's right.
Okay.
You know, you're gonna sit there and fall asleep until you eat, but you throwing up because you don't like green beans. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Just that simple.
That's what I would tell them. And I do plan on getting to a point where I am having these conversations, and I will be counseling young ladies and young women about their struggles with abuse and mental abuse, physical abuse, drug abuse, emotional abuse. I've experienced all those things. So I do plan to pour exactly that into some of these young women.
And it's a lot of them out there. Like even with me being an adolescent psych nurse. I remember my first time on the unit. I'll never forget it. There was a 12-year-old there, and they kept saying she needs to come out the room. She needs to come out the room. I'm like, well, we need to figure out why she's not. It's not that she's refusing. She says she doesn't feel well, so we need to figure out what's making her sick. And it was maybe 3 days that had gone by, and I asked her, I said, is there a possibility you could be pregnant? Because we're giving certain medications, you got to be careful, especially when they're pregnant. So she denied it for the whole day. She just kept saying, no, Miss Amber, I'm not. And I pulled her to a side and I said, listen, I'm just going to give you a little bit of me. I was there. You're safe here. We need to figure this out so you can have a choice. And so we can figure what's best for you and your medical side of things, because I can't give you medicine if you're pregnant. Then we need to figure it out. And she ended up telling me, and it was based off of trauma, right? But that opened that door to have that conversation so that healing can begin. Yes. Yes. So there's so many, and it's not girls. It's not just girls, because there's young men out here that's being in the same situation. Now I'm a dad. I'm going to be a father, and I'm 15, I'm 14, and our young men and don't have an outlet, don't have any kind of example, can't go have a conversation when they have that first uncomfortable dream. They like, what's going on with their bodies? And they don't have that person to go to for whatever reason, whatever that dynamic may be in the household. So it's not just our women, our young girls, but it is definitely, it's an issue, and we have to speak more about it. So that's why this platform today it means a lot to me and a lot of people. So.
All right, so just to kind of go in one more direction before we end for the night, because it's going to be a part 2. What you got, Cole? What you got?
I'm just listening because I made some good points. A lot of times we feel like if we give our kids everything they want and need, that they're good, but they want to be heard. They want you to listen. That's pretty much sums everything up.
All right, so let's go into one more direction, and we're going to go ahead and leave it there, okay? Why do you think parents have a hard time apologizing? I ain't talking about the healed ones, because that ain't nothing for them to just go ahead and say, I'm sorry, right? Why is it hard for parents to just simply say, I apologize?
A lot of times,
even if you don't fully agree.
Yeah. Well, half the time is some parents don't even recognize where they went wrong. And then the second part of that is they're not willing to listen to their kids, because a kid got to stay in a child's place. Even as an adult, you're my adult child. So are you willing to even listen to them?
Yeah.
For me, I'll speak personally on me is I avoided having certain conversations, because those conversations led to opening up those wounds again and making me face what I said I didn't want to do to my children, or didn't want them to endure what I endured, right? It made me face my reality. It would make me face, right? I'm no different than somebody else. I'm flawed. And I had this conversation earlier where it's okay to be wrong and it's okay to be flawed, but you have to be willing to be accountable and accept your part in the situation. And most parents, they can't be. They're not willing.
So to answer your question, I think for myself, it's I did the best I could with what I had. So it's almost like you have to find that balance of, I'm not apologizing for what I did because that's all I knew, but I am apologizing for the way I made you feel, or how I may have made you feel neglected, or whatever the case may be. But I think it's hard for parents, because I'm a parent. Sometimes you got to go to parents have a hard time going back to the root of the problem. You know what I mean? Because it's like we were saying, it's generational sometimes. So if it comes from up top and you're just doing what was done to you, you don't see the wrong in that. But because you also didn't get a chance to voice your opinion, or you also didn't get a chance to say how you feel, or you also didn't get an apology.
Right.
So it's when it's time to pour it back into your kids, it's almost like, well, what am I apologizing for? I did the best I could. I gave you everything that I had. You didn't go without, because that's always the main thing that we tend to go back to. You didn't go without. You had everything you needed. You had all the latest clothes, had all the latest shoes, but the inside was destroyed. And we don't have the ability to see that, because when I was destroyed on the inside, nobody saw that for me.
Nobody's seen
Right,
it.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you don't want to not recognize it, but you gotta, like you said, counseling, therapist. You gotta go to somebody and talk about that and get that out, so you can understand maybe where your parents was coming from, which will help you take responsibility for what your child may feel or may not feel.
Right.
Yeah. Cole, what you got?
Um,
Why parents don't apologize for their actions?
honest, I ain't never wanted no apology. Cause I'm like, um, 'cause I'm never gonna get it, so why wait for it? Why you not giving it? I'm not gonna stress myself out. I don't know, and I think that because that was the way I was raised. Like I was raised not to show emotion. I was raised not to care. I was raised not to be a weak woman. So at the end of the day, it affects a lot now because I'm like, I don't even care.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I always wanted an apology. I remember going to counseling and I was, even though being a full grown adult, being way taller than my mama still was a giant in my eye, even up to this day, right? And I remember my counselor telling me I had to write a letter to my mom saying everything that ever happened to me. And I had to write it in a way that it wasn't bashing or disrespectful, but still getting my point out in a respectful way. And at that time, she still was going through her own, healing and everything like that. But I remember her saying this, and I hate this apology. It is the worst apology I feel like anybody can ever give anybody. I am sorry you felt that way. Baby, when I tell you, you could have,
I probably would have
girl,
lost it.
Fry some eggs
girl,
on your head.
let me just tell you, I had the right people put in the right place at the right time because the Lachey then, it would have been nothing for me to knock and kick in a door, even of a parent. Okay. I had the foundation of being able to be like, you're not gonna get it. And she may not even know how to apologize. Now, fast forward real quick. Um, we had a conversation, I want to say last year, the year before last. So I wrote this letter, I think before Zay was born, and he's 12. It might have been right after he was born, but I feel like it was before my grandma passed. So that was 12, 13 years ago, possibly. But I remember us having a conversation while I was doing her hair one day, and she was just talking and talking and telling me all this stuff about like her childhood and how she was the black sheep and this, and that. And it literally came over me of it makes sense. If you felt like nobody loved you and people took your voice and I'm sure she won't mind, but she was actually attempted to be essayed by her dad, which is my best friend, which is weird, right? But then she also would get into relationships. I remember her being married to who I thought was a great stepfather. He was my best friend, but he was beating her. And as she's sitting there telling me all the stuff that she's been through, and I remember her saying, the reason I got a divorce is because one day you told me, and I don't remember this, and I'm pretty good at remembering, but I don't remember this. But she said, I literally told her, why does he bring women in the house when you leave? And she said, I can't let my baby see this. And that was probably the first time I'm like, oh, she did love me. She just didn't know where to put it and how to place it and how
Right.
to say, you know what, I messed up and I'm sorry. And literally that day, as she was talking, when I tell you the unforgiveness, now there's some stuff I'm still working on, but the unforgiveness that came over me, I mean, the forgiveness that came over me was, it was like a light bulb. It was like, okay, like right? And then I'm sitting there and I came home and I think I told my wife, I said, it's so crazy that everybody that abused her, I loved and didn't even
Mm.
know. Can you imagine getting your tail whipped or having to deal with a child, your daddy trying to violate you and your child love and admire and put these people on a pedestal where they could do no wrong? And you got to look at this child every day and do what? Because I know I wouldn't have been able to do it. I probably would not. I
Right.
still probably would not be able to do it. And I had to literally let it go with no apology because she gave it to me with the explanation of why. You can't give me
Hmm.
something if you empty. So I can't expect you to fill me up when your cup is dry, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You got anything, Reed?
No, not really. I had something, but I forgot. But um, oh, I was gonna say, my mother, she's going on to glory now. Um, but like my mother never badmouthed my father. I worshiped the ground my father walked on for a period of time. So I never, until I got older, I found out what he did to her while she was pregnant, and it was terrible. He didn't beat her or anything, but he left her, and they came from the country, so he brought her to a big city, and then you left, and she was destroyed behind that. But I never got an opportunity to tell her how I felt about the abortions, which was the whole reason we having this podcast right
Right.
now. I never got a chance to tell her how she made me feel about that. I did get a chance to tell my father because he had a couple of women afterwards, and then the last one he had, we bumped heads because I was spoiled, and she was way younger than him. She didn't understand why he would, like, my father's the kind of person that would, if everybody's getting KFC, he wouldn't buy KFC for me. He would buy Taco Bell for me because why buy the food I'm not going to eat?
Mm-hmm.
But she would be upset about that. So it was a whole nother show again. But I had an opportunity to tell him how I felt. And it wasn't until I got like real loud with my father. And I'm like, dude, I just want you to listen. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to tell me how this wasn't this way and this wasn't this way, but you don't know how I was feeling in that moment. And when I tried to tell you with a letter, you shut me down.
Mm-hmm.
Like my feelings didn't matter. And then we kind of fell out for a long time after that. And then he only came around when I got in trouble. I'm gonna be like, come over here and get your daughter. Yeah, well, when I had a cheer game and I was in the band and I was on the pom-pom team and I was on the dance company, where was you at then?
Right.
Right.
Now I didn't got in trouble at school or something, and here you come. So I didn't get an opportunity. It took me I didn't get a chance to tell him how I felt about all of those things until I was like 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
From 14, 13, so it helped once I got it out. But even still, then I felt like it was okay. I'm listening to you. Okay, you done? It was one of those. It wasn't I'm sorry that I didn't listen, or I'm
Right.
Right.
sorry that I didn't understand where you was coming from. But he's also rough around the edges. And he came from the country, and you don't do that. You don't talk back. You don't have an opinion. You're a
Yeah.
child, and
Yeah.
that's it. So
Now, I'm gonna say this because I feel like, because I know I'm playing devil's advocate, but I feel like it's hard to sit back and watch your child make certain decisions,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're bad, when you know that you have some type of knowledge on it, or you can
Mm-hmm.
try to control it a little bit. So I think them thinking they know everything or have been through it, and to sit back and watch us or someone make their child make that decision, it's hard. So they
Yeah.
react pretty much different than they probably normally would with anybody else, because this is my child and I don't want them to make this decision.
That goes into the paying
Mhm.
attention, or that
Hey,
that
Mhm.
yeah.
that ties directly into what we were saying by not
Mhm.
hearing your children.
Not
Yeah.
listening.
You being at this age and I'm not listening to you because I can tell you that this is going to be bad.
Mhm.
You shouldn't do that. But at this age, I will explain
Yeah. Yeah.
why this is
Right.
a bad
Right.
decision. This can go this way or this can go that way instead of, oh no, you're not doing that because you're gonna be in jail. Like, no,
Mhm.
that's a bad thing. You're gonna get arrested. Or no, that's a bad thing. That's not a good look. You're a young lady
Yeah.
or you're
Mhm.
a young man. You should carry yourself a certain manner
Mhm.
instead of just no.
No.
Right.
Yeah. That's it. I mean,
And
because
I
even
re-
as a parent, as I'm sorry,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, no, go ahead.
Even as a parent now, like as parents, as you said, Coco, it probably is hard because I sit back and I'm like, okay, I tell my daughter like, okay, you probably shouldn't do that. Okay. Okay. You probably shouldn't carry your gun out of here. Okay. Because you're upset. But then I'm like, she witnessed her mom do it. Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's one of those things like, okay, that's where I'm glad I got a relationship with God because I need him to cover her the way he covered me
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
because I wasn't in my right mind, just like she wasn't at her age. She's not at her age. So as parents, it does get tricky. It does get hard, but we have, it's so important. I tell her all the time, now that she's a parent, she will see it, she will feel it, but the only thing that you can do from this moment on is take the good and the bad and try and decipher them so it's a balance for you and your child.
Mhm.
Because
I, let me piggyback because I'm about sick of cultivate Android right now.
really, really,
So this is my take, and it's gonna be a pin. I'm gonna put a pin in that in this what I'm ready to say too. But I want to say a part of it. It also has
okay,
to do with being raised to survive and raised to be loved,
that's right.
right? Even
Yes.
though, like,
Yes.
even when I said I didn't know what love was because I had the abusive part, but I also had an aunt that overly loved, so I got
Hmm.
everything I want. It wasn't a balance, right? Put a pin in that too. Um, but when you're raised to survive, all you know is don't do this because I need you to survive. So I'm gonna tell you what you shouldn't do because this is what's gonna happen.
Hmm.
Versus let me show you what not to do because I'm gonna give it to you on a love portion. Now both of them come with love because of course you love your child and you don't want them to follow in anybody's footsteps or do anything wrong. But it's definitely a difference. Like how you said, Coco, you was raised not to show emotions and such, right? If you
Hmm.
didn't check that with your children, because you can still be that way and still make sure your children are different. But if you don't
Right.
check that with your children, then you raise children that's gonna know how to survive. So I mean, I can't show you that I have any type of weakness, which then makes you're not gonna be vulnerable in anything. You're probably not gonna trust nobody because everybody could try to get you in your emotional state.
That's
And
right.
then so it puts you in that survival mode versus it being a balance of let's be street smart, but let's be book smart. So let's have
Hmm.
love, but let's know how to survive and get this thing done at the same time. But that's the pin. We're gonna hold it right there because that's a whole nother topic of
Man, yes, it is.
love versus survival. It's a
That's it.
big difference. Like
It is.
I watch my wife all the time. She was raised on survival. The men in her life show her how to survive, how to take care of home, how to make sure the person that you're with and who whatever your family dynamic is to make sure that's good. But that
Hmm.
ain't telling you what happened when those kids don't want to do what you want them to do because you see a better path, but they might not see it yet. See, that's
Hmm.
survival. That ain't love because the love part of, I'm not saying it ain't love, but the love part comes in and saying, I'm gonna tell you, but I'm gonna go
Right.
ahead and step back and watch you do what you do. And when you need me, call me. But that's
Mhm.
all I'm gonna say because I ain't gonna give you no whole bunch of energy. But when it's survival, it's gonna be so much energy
Yes.
you giving to
Don't
try
do
to
what
get
you
them to
do and don't
change.
call me.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
not because nobody in this world does that. I don't care how many times you tell somebody, don't do this, don't do that. If you're not showing them
That's
the
right.
example of not to do it, baby, they're gonna do exactly not cash in my life. I just want to make sure I highlight this so it is recorded on the quality
Quality
line.
insurance purposes.
But it is definitely a difference in love versus survival, and that's gonna be on part two. On next week, join me and my my beautiful sisters My business partner, Coco, that I love so much. Be with us next Wednesday at 8 p.m. on the same locations, Facebook and YouTube. You can get
That's
the
right.
replay the next day on our other page or everybody page that's posting because we got a jumping team behind us that share everything. Okay.
That's right.
But we're gonna talk about actually operating as mature parents and versus immature. We're going to talk about getting over abandonment. We're going to talk about
Ooh,
love versus survival.
that's right.
Just to piggyback off this real quick so we can go ahead and swiftly go into some other good topics that we got. If you want to be a guest, I'm gonna fight my son. I swear to God. Sorry, Facebook. I ain't gonna fight nobody. I'm gonna get my son. But
That's it.
if you see him, Shabu,
Yeah.
that's my 17-year-old. But if you want to be a guest, feel free to inbox Coco or myself. Or if you have any topics, we will not say who gave us the topics. It does not matter who gave us topics. If you have a topic that you want to be talked about on Let's Talk That Talk with Cola, you can always inbox Coco as well, or myself, or send anything to chatwithcola@yahoo.com. Again, that is chatwithcola@yahoo.com. And we thank you guys for joining in with us. This is not done. We just unpacked, and now we have to put in some new clean clothes. We took the dirty stuff out the suitcase, and now it's time to
Yes.
pack for our next trip. Okay, Coco, you got anything you want to say?
You guys go to our YouTube page and like, subscribe, and share.
Y'all see
We're
my business partner? She's so fine.
Yes. And if I could just say, leave you guys with this. Number one, thank you for all of this. This is great. But if there is anyone watching watching this, just know that if you're in this space, find somebody that can help, help even guide you to the right place. And even if it's family or friends, you may not be able to have those conversations, but it's okay to go and say, you know what, I need to talk to somebody, because it's imperative that we break those curses. It's imperative that we pour into our future and our babies and our grandbabies, so that way they don't have to go through what we've gone through. So
And the biggest way of doing that is just making sure you make a promise to yourself that you don't want
that's
your
right.
kids to go through what you went through. It's
That's
really
right.
not hard. It's hard work for you, but it's so, I promise you, if you knew the toxicity that I used to possess and how easy it is just to make sure that the kids now don't have any more impactful negative things, or that they have to recover from anything that I'm doing now or the parents or people I put around them.
Right.
All right, we love y'all. Stay true, be intentional. See y'all later.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.